Hello everyone, I'm just making a video to show you how I separate leaf pots. I've got 2 leaf pots here to do. I'm only going to do a couple of babies of each one. This is our second time filming, so I'm going to run through it as quick as I can so Ma doesn't get a bit pissed. Right, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a pot and I'm going to put a wick in the pot. So before I touch the babies, I'm going to wick a couple of pots. I think I'll do 3 just so you can see what I'm doing. To wick a pot, I've got wicks here that have been washed and dried. They're 2mm VB cord. The brand is Jarvis Walker. They're green because the green doesn't show the algae as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the wick into the pot through one of the very side holes. This is about a 2.15 inch pot, or 55mm for the metric people. Oops, I'm shaking like a leaf, please excuse that. So I'm going to pull this up in the pot all the way. Now this is a little trick to make sure you get the right amount of wick in every pot. So if you just insert that into the hole directly across from where you inserted it. Please ignore the fly zapper that's killing all the stray bugs. See how it's inserted through? That means that the wick won't come through. So it'll hold the wick a bit better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my soilless mix that I mixed myself. This is perlite, peat and vermiculite. It's about 2 parts perlite, 1 part peat moss and half a part of vermiculite. I'm going to fill my pot till it's overflowing, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tamp it down lightly. You don't want to tamp it down hard because African violets don't like soggy roots. They like air around their roots, so if you really compact it down, they're going to get wet feet and they're not going to be happy. And they'll probably rot if you overwater them. Okay, so I've got my pot here. So I would do several like that. So I'll do another one after when we get to that point. So I'm going to separate this. This is a standard variety. It's called Alamo Aztec. It was planted on the 23rd of the 10th, 2017. It's a standard. It needs to come out of its pot. So what I do is I like to put a bit of fear in them. I give them the curry up. So I hit them on the thing before I remove them from the pot. They're not as delicate as people think. So yeah, you can see it's got a nice root ball. This is damp, not wet. So if it was wet, it wouldn't crumble like that. It would stay in big lumps. So now I'm going to look and find the little crowns. So I've got, see how they are just separated and found a crown. I'm going to use my razor knife. This is made by Tamiya Company. I like it because it's got a big handle and I have trouble holding on to things. It's a knife for model railways, that sort of thing. And I'm just going to slice down in here. Don't slice into your fingers like I'm doing. It's dangerous, but I'm doing it because I have trouble holding on to things. So I've sliced down there, and this little crown here is just going to separate off. I broke a leaf off, but that doesn't matter. So that's a twinning leaf. I call that a 3-leaf clover, but this will grow perfectly fine. So I'm going to remove some of the soil. Well, it's not soil, it's soilless, but I call it soil. I'm going to remove it. You don't need all of that. Now, if I had have removed all the roots, they don't need roots to grow, but if I had removed all the roots, it would need to be put in a high humidity dome. So I'm going to get dessert spoon, don't tell Ma. I'm going to put it in like that and make a hole. So you see how I made the hole? And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this baby down in the hole. So, whoops, this hole needs to be a bit bigger. It doesn't matter if you spill some out. It weights a little bit, but I prefer to do it this way than any chance of introducing pests into my good supply of potting mix. So there we go. I'm going to tamp that down lightly, but not hard. I only tamp it down lightly so that the plant stays upright, otherwise you'll have floppy doppies that don't grow very neatly. I've got a lab wash bottle with light fertilizer. I recommend you use regular water, but I'm using light fertilizer because these haven't been fertilized for a while because they were leaf pots and I just haven't gotten around to it. So just lightly water it. Now, the wick is dry so that when I insert it, so that it doesn't stick to all the potting mix and make a huge mess in my reservoir. So I just sit this in a tray of warmish water for a couple of seconds to wet the wick, and then the capillary action will start because my soilless mix is already wet. It's not wet, it's damp. Think of pie mix. You know how your crust gets too soggy, too wet? You don't want that. You want it so it's still crumbly and light, but it's damp. So that's one baby. Now what I would do is I'd put my label on here, on the side that's got the wick. So you can see how I put the label on there, and then you can find the wick. And because we put the wick in through another hole, it won't pull out easy. So you don't need to knot it or anything, because knot can introduce too much water into the pot. So we'll go back to our clump of babies that was from the leaf. I always break the mother leaf off when they start to get babies. So as you can see, I'm just gently prying them apart. If you look carefully, this is more than one plant. Yes, it looks like a big pretty plant, but it's more than one. If you plant more than one in a pot, you're going to have multiple crowns, and that's not going to look good. And you won't be able to show it, because standards are not supposed to have multiple crowns. Now if you can look here, a couple of these leaves aren't really doing much good. So this one here can come off, and this one here can come off. I'll leave these two, but this will grow out really symmetrical, really easy. So what we're going to do, that would be named Alamo Aztec with a label, but I didn't print a label just yet, because I'll print them all at the same time. Ooh, I seem to be mumbling this time. Okay, so here's another baby. We're going to do a pot up the same. Get a wick. Going to insert the wick into this hole here. Pull the wick up through the pot, and then place the wick down through the other hole like that, and just hold it. And then we'll bring our soilless mix over. Turn our pot up this way. We'll overflow it, because if you overflow it, it's easier to get it nice, just like that. Take that away. Get our dessert spoon. It makes a mess, so if you've got a dust buster, it's really good for cleaning up the mess. So I think that it's easier for you to see me doing it on the bench rather than the tray, don't you think? Yeah. Alright, so here's another baby of Alamo Aztec. I'm just going to pop him down in the hole and cover it. Now, I slightly covered the crown because the crown hasn't developed its little leaves yet. And I find that the little leaves develop stronger and faster if they're not, because some crowns don't have them when they're babies. I found if you bury it a little, they grow stronger. So that's another Alamo Aztec baby that's just going to get wet with my lab wash bottle. You don't need to water it much, it's just enough to, like a bit of glue to hold it in. Let's do, right, so that's pretty much all the Alamo Aztec babies I got from that leaf. But I've got two small ones here that will grow. See how they've got no little centre crown yet? They will grow, but I'm not going to grow them because I've got another couple of leaf pots of this that I can grow. So there's no point in me waiting for these because they take up valuable shelf space I haven't got at the moment. So now we can do this baby. So these babies, now this is Child's Play. It's either a semi-miniature or a miniature. I'm not sure. I haven't looked it up in first class recently. So I would print out the labels for this as well, but I'll do all the labels at once to show you how I do them. So I'm going to hit this on the bench, put the fear of me in them. They're either going to sink or swim. So I make them sink or swim pretty early in their life. Okay, so as you can see, there's a good root ball there. I'm just going to flake off some of the excess. And now if you look here, can you see that all right? See how there's a crown there? There's some immature leaves there, but see the crown? I'm going to take that crown off. Now that's a baby. Now if we look here, see how that's a little tiny crown. We're not going to keep that one. We just break it off to make it easier to work. And then in here we want to untangle the leaves. See, that's a baby there I want to keep. See? And then break that off. So there's a really good baby of Child's Play. So I'm just going to break some of these off. Because when they're in the leaf pot, they're intertwined. So the roots are not all from this baby. So there's no point in leaving it, because that's something that can rot or in whatever that we don't want. So we'll do another pot. And as you can see, I just dump the babies in the tray that I'm working in while I'm filling pots and such. They're not delicate. People think they need to treat them like a baby. I find that if I'm a bit rough, they grow a bit better. So, like that. See how we put it through the pot. Bring over our soilless mix. Put it in. overflow it a bit and tamp it down. So we've got our pot with our wick. Make a hole. Got one of our, that's the clump, one of our strong little babies. Place him in the hole. Like that. So, alright, so that's how we do the babies.